Another interesting theory I think that we can use here is cultural imperialism. I love the idea of cultural imperialism because, well, gone are the days of where one country invades another country, right? Well, let's move on. But cultural imperialism, right? The implications of like dumping like limitless money into Western teams in this example and athletes. Okay, so for example, if you look at like the Persian Gulf nations, they want the prestige and the credibility that comes along with like leading European football clubs, right? And sponsoring like those globally revered sports stars. So it allows them to act like open, developed societies when the reality is it's maybe more restrictive and totalitarian than it wants us to believe. Okay. So having David Beckham, as it was, for example, as your tourism ambassador, lets people conveniently forget you don't allow free speech, for example, or elections or things like this. Like great deal, great deal. So they get to like siphon off like billions in oil money to play fantasy football with like elite teams while scoring an international like reputation boost, if you will, right? And spike tourism to their oppressed regions. Everyone wins, right? Well, except for the exploited migrant workers and child activists and people dying when building stadiums. But I mean, who's counting, right? Who's counting? Also cultural imperialism, right? Meaning you bring your culture to a country without forcing it by force, via war, or and so on. But like via, pop culture or cultural commodities, Starbucks, for example, typical American cultural imperialism at work here, right? Starbucks goes into every country in the world, basically. We're like, yeah, cool, or McDonald's, and we're embracing the American style there, right? So that's one form of cultural imperialism as well. And that also works, of course, with like taking over football clubs, right? Taking over whatever. American football clubs. I was looking for the right word, like football clubs, and as in soccer teams, but actual football clubs and American football clubs. For example, sponsoring, getting the UFC to go to Saudi Arabia, getting the WWE to go to Saudi Arabia, and so on. And so this also it could be seen as like a back and forth of cultural imperialism, of course, right? Like who's getting the better deal of it remains to be seen, I believe. If you follow now that sinister sports washing money trail, right? I mean, digging a bit deeper into like those investments that are made by like those unscrupulous regimes and corporations to like chase clout and just public approval. One of those who's really active is the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, right? They now own, for example, the English Premier League club Newcastle United. If you wonder, like, why is Newcastle not shit anymore? It's because they got the Saudi money. So this allows the Saudi rulers to hide their egregious, like, crimes in Yemen, for example, behind the frenzied fandom and glory of elite European football. Yeah, the UAE has put like vast sums of Formula One, like money into Formula One, for example, auto racing, right? Using this as a vehicle to sports wash their reputation and provide like enticing branding opportunities. You got it right, the vehicle, because racing cars. Okay. China started, not started, but like they were one of the first big nations to do this. Actually, they spent like nauseating amount of money like to host the Winter Olympics, for example, in Beijing. But before they spent lots of money to get like elderly NBA stars, for example, to play in China, right? So they trying to use athletics as an like attempted distraction from like ongoing oppression, for example, of the Uyghur Muslims. As an outrage was temporarily displaced by pride in Chinese athlete victories and so on. And there are countless more examples. I mean, when I made like a list, like a few bullet points for the podcast, I was like, oh my God, there are really so many examples. Like I said, it didn't just start now, right? Like sponsorships have been around forever, and it's been always the case. And it's just once you're really following the trail, you're like, who can I support? Who is still there that doesn't have dirty hands when it comes to this, right? if you have enough money to throw around, you can essentially rent some sweet public goodwill through sports. Let's just call it how it is, right? What a deal. As like Professor Pop quiz. What is this sports washing? Let's pause for a quick pop quiz to make sure everyone understands how sports washing works. Don't worry, no grading, just fun with sports washing. So scenario, the North Korean government wants to distract the global news media from their nuclear weapons program, even though they're very proud of it, of course, and their awful human rights record, right? They decide to, A, host the World Table Tennis Championships in Pyongyang. They purchase a stake in Manchester United. I mean, okay. Why would they want to purchase a stake in a failing football club? But that's just for the sake of purchase a stake in Manchester United Football Club. C, sponsor the international esports tournaments of the video game Overwatch. Or D, all of the above. What's sports washing? Obviously, it's D, right? Of course, you're correct. Those would all be textbook sports washing techniques to buy Kim Jong-un's regime some sweet, good publicity to counteract those inconvenient nuclear armament and widespread famine things. Yay, sports. Woo. So now how can we combat disinformation and stand for justice in times like these, right? While callous sports washing aims to dupe fans through those glitzy spectacles, we can fight by staying vigilant. That's the only thing we can do. You're gonna analyze facts rather than cheer blindly. Look past the shiny red exterior of propaganda and really try to see the truth. You gotta demand. We have to demand real institutional change rather than those token PR moves. Yeah, but we're hosting something. Look at it. And we gotta help others become educated about media literacy and critical thinking. And you see, all my episodes come back to this, right? Because if we have this, we can recognize those authoritarian information campaigns. And again, it's not just from regimes; it's also from corporations. Who owns the MLS? So the truth prevails if we expose this dishonest, destructive narratives and continue speaking out to uplift human rights over dictators. And I know it sounds very cheesy and cliche, but it's the only thing we can do, okay? Because life isn't just a sporting event. And that's me saying a huge sports fan.